Hello everyone, Anthony here of the Bloody Point. So I'm back into PlanetSide 2, putting in the hours. Recently I've been spending a lot of time evaluating the construction system in its current state with the recent fortification update. I see a lot of complaints from people, including big names in the PlanetSide 2 community, that construction is not effective and useless in some people's words. I find this to be pretty inaccurate. One of the specific complaints people have been making is that the no deploy zones are too restrictive, but I think that they are either basing that opinion from a position of lack of personal experience with the current state of construction, or they have outdated information. But as you can see somewhat in this particular video, and you will see in future ones, the no deploy zone in many cases has become smaller, and in some cases it's completely absent. You can put a constructed base right on the doorstep of an existing outpost, and you can also put them in some cases on the capture point. So I don't quite see that complaint is relevant, but in any case, here's an example of something you'll encounter often when you build a constructed base, is that you'll become identified either on the map through having the orbital, or people seeing your silo, or just visually seeing the base as they pass by. Here I noticed that someone else built a base near mine. You can hear him walking around, and they've got their orbital going. Oh, here was an interesting situation. A little case of domestic dispute. Blue on blue. In this case, not NC. Okay, take them both out. For some reason, they were shooting each other. No idea why. One of these guys will later feature prominently in my troubles in defending my base from this base. The other guy, I think, is the base owner. So yes, the bases in this case are right next to each other, and as their orbital overlaps my base, eventually I'm going to have to deal with it. I did attack first in this case. I'd kind of forgotten that fact, that I initiated this first. But yeah, so I make the decision to deal with this base before it orbitals mine. And first step usually in assaulting a base, it depends of course on the scale. In this particular case, you can hear the battle going on in the background. It's very close. Both of our bases are well within range of that battle. If routers were working, we'd be able to have a significant impact on the fight, but routers appear to be bugged still, so they can't be used, but we can still use artillery, etc., and pulling armor, air. Spawn tubes can be placed close to the edge of the zone in any case. So I'm going to have to deal with this base, and when you're fighting in a situation like this, the majority of the forces are occupied at the battle. These bases are not active in terms of active fighting, and there are not a lot of defenders. So you got to really be careful how much time you spend in your base and how much time you spend working on the enemy base. What I have been doing is putting a fortress module in. Gives me 60 seconds of protection to get over here and do what I have to do. There's only a handful, maybe 3 or 4 people who I've seen active at this base, and I'm the only one active at mine. This particular guy is the infiltrator who was shooting the base owner. I could hear him decloak as he got into his air unit here. So he and I are going to be fighting back and forth for the next few minutes. Not sure what he was doing there, but that helps. So he's been using this Flail in this base to attack my base, destroying certain assets. So that's my first target. I have to take the Flail out. It's the most immediate threat to my constructions. So I'm going to work on it here. Now there are other people at this base, refilling the silo, etc. We got these 2 guys who will also feature prominently in this video. Okay, so things are heating up. I'm cutting out a lot of the action, obviously, just focusing on the key points. So when you're dealing with base versus base conflict, you're generally going to be talking about artillery, you know, the Flail, the orbitals, pulling air, of course. So I'm going to take this out first. I tend to use either my anti-vehicle engineer platform or the light assault for this. Engineer is good because you will never run out of ammunition, and because I run the underbarrel grenade launcher, I'll always be able to, you know, do asset damage. Light assault's a bit riskier because you will run out of ammo eventually, but it's got a good damage per second for assets. That's my biggest concern. As you can see, the Flail's firing on my base as we speak. It's doing some damage, you know, nothing critical, because the new construction system allows you to put a skywall on certain large assets, like the all-in-one spawn command base, not the big one, but the smaller one, and also the orbital. I've already taken out the spawn tube here, so at least it's a bit more difficult logistically for them to get back. I completely forget that you can overload modules now, and you know, halt the repair, disable the functionality of some of them, such as the skywall, and also, you know, do some damage. I do remember later in the video that yes, that was an issue. Redeploying because this is out of ammo. I'm not going to be able to do much. He's going to come back again, the same guy, and he just keeps rebuilding the Flail. So I need to counteract that. And while he's, you know, in between Flail usages, I do more damage to the other assets, ultimately wanting to take the silo down. So back to the construction system in general. Some of the changes, you know, other than the no deploy zones, which are smaller, there are more places you can place bases. And the greater assets, you can make a smaller, you know, tighter base. Something that I've come up with a design for that I think is really effective, which I will be posting at some point. But the other change is that you can build more walls now. You have more wall assets in general, and you can have more down at one time. So in this particular case, I have my base pretty much completely walled in, which doesn't really change too much. You know, vehicles can take down a wall pretty quickly if they attack en masse, and of course infantry can just walk through your vehicle gates, etc. You do need to leave a path that's passable for your ant. So these two guys, similar names, related in some way. Now they've come to check out my base. I'm gonna have to deal with this. I have at this point, I believe, if I remember correctly, already eliminated the silo in the other base, so it's been taken care of. As you can see, the orbital is off the map. It's self-destructed because the user went offline. A good bit of a good example of the underbarrel usage again. I just love the weapon. Once you play with it enough, you can close the gap between, you know, ineffectiveness and effectiveness just by making certain shots, like that one and a couple others you saw. As an engineer, I wouldn't use it on any other class, but being able to replenish the ammo as needed really makes a difference, and it's extremely useful versus assets, vehicles, and even other infantry if you're careful. So all in all, the construction system as it currently stands, aside from the bugs of course, I personally feel it's actually an improvement over previous iterations, and it still adds a lot of value to the game. People aren't perhaps using it correctly. One thing that people certainly aren't doing is making use of the tools the devs have given to, you know, make them sturdier with the module system. But hopefully that'll catch on. And yes, definitely, game is in a good place. You know, Rel's departure, it's both a good and bad thing. I'm sure you've heard enough about that from the big names in the community. You don't need me chiming in on that, but it's a thing of note, and the future is going to be interesting to watch. As always, thanks for watching the video. I hope you are playing and enjoying the game, and if not, at least you're watching my little window into it. And take it easy. See you in the next one.